Now we're going into the seventh turn of 7 years World War from S&T 221. Yeah, 221. And I'm just going to cover the Treasury phase before we go down to the map. Now, France had a chit grand tour, and he could use that if he wanted to select the initiative player, but he chose to just allow England to keep that, and there's probably a reason for that. England and Prussia and the United Provinces use the laissez-faire chit, so that gives them an additional 6 treasury points. They collect taxes, they collect from their colonial trade route and the East Indies trade route, and so they've got a great deal of wealth. They have 7 command chits, and one of them is the revolution chit, and it has to be played immediately if there's an army occupying an enemy capital, which that has happened. The Austrian government is occupying the Ottoman Empire's capital. So we have to roll a die on the revolution, but there is no effect. England builds a fortress in Scotland. Then the second coalition is France, Spain, and India. And Spain uses the trading charter chit, which doubles the West Indies trade routes income for the turn. And they collect taxes. France constructs a fort in Italy, and they construct fortresses in Florida, Antilles, and Portugal. Then the third coalition is Austria-Russia. They play the corruption chit against France, so France loses 3 treasury points. And then they build a fortress in Poland, and a fleet is built in St. Petersburg, and an army in Siberia. And then finally, the fourth coalition is the Manchu and Ottoman empires, and they collect 30 treasury points in taxation and for the Chinese trade route. And so they build several fortified areas to protect the holdings. In addition, they build 3 hordes, an army, and a fleet. So let's go down to the map and take a look at how this last turn plays out. So the first player, the initiative player, is England, Prussia, and the Dutch. They are the first coalition. So straight away they decide to attack France using the diplomatic tables. And you can see in the picture, this is a diplomatic warfare going on here. The coalition puts down 3 chits. France decides that they can't take any chances. They have to use their 3 diplomacy chit. Although I'll have to say they were hoping to use it for something else later, but the situation has changed. Interestingly, the third coalition, Austria and Russia, decide to hold their chits back and see what happens. And then the Manchu and the Ottomans also decide to stay out of it. So the British player uses the diplomacy table in the +3 column, and the result is D3. So the English decide to make Spain neutral. So that messes up the second coalition. It's now just France and India. So you can see how that played out by looking at this first picture. The first coalition decides to play the corruption chit against the Manchu and Ottoman player. So the Chinese lose 4 treasury points. And then the English fleet sails to the Canary Islands to seal off the French Navy, which is anchored in Morocco. And finally, a Dutch army marches into Newfoundland, and there is no combat otherwise. So we go to the second coalition. Now it's France and the Maritime Confederacy. Spain is no longer a player. France's navy takes some desperate action here. The admiral decides to attack English fleets near Gibraltar, and the British navy is defeated and sails off into the Atlantic Ocean. And then France spends a forced march chit, which means it can make a second attack on the English Navy. And it does this hoping to interdict the lucrative East Indies trade route. Again, the French is fighting outnumbered, but wins the battle and forces another retreat. And you can see this in the picture here. The British fleet ends by blocking the Antilles trade route, and the French Navy ends up blocking the East Indies trade route. So we have some tit for tat going on here. In India, the Maratha Confederacy launches a campaign against the Mysore forces, and he uses a general, and the Mysore army is subsequently defeated and surrenders to the Indian forces, and Mysore is captured. You can see that in the picture that I have here. Now we go to the third coalition, Austria and Russia. And Austria decides to make a diplomatic play and uses two chits. Nobody counters it. Unfortunately, it's a weak result. It's espionage. So the Austrians decide to examine the Manchu dynasty's campaign chits, and they discover they have the correspondence with Voltaire, which is a powerful chit. So the Russians decide to attack the Manchu Empire in Siberia, and if they can get a victory here, they might be able to get this chit away from them through the random loss of chits. So the Russians use a 3-rated general, and we get the expected result here. The defender is eliminated, the Manchu base is eliminated, the horde units are destroyed, and the government loses a couple of campaign chits. It turns out to be an admiral chit and the expedition chit, so he still contains the Voltaire chit. You can see how this battle went down in the picture that I have here. We now go to the fourth coalition, the Manchu Empire and the Ottoman Empire. So the Manchu player decides to use the Voltaire chit to reclaim a 3 diplomacy chit from the pool. And then he plays 2 diplomatic chits for 4 points in an attempt to get Spain to align with them. So the Russians are forced here to play a counter-diplomacy chit. And the result is that it's only espionage, so it's not enough to really affect the game here. The Manchu Empire decides to launch a counter-campaign against Russia, and they decide to use a general to put in charge of the attacking forces. The Russians, as you can see in the picture, parry this move with their own leader, and the result is an indecisive battle. So both sides lose a unit, but the Russians remain in place. Then another attack is planned against northern Japan. So a veteran fleet sails over with an army, and this time the Japanese defenders are eliminated, and the Manchu army captures the area. The Manchu government tries to use an Enlightenment chit, and they expend a 2 diplomacy chit, which was earned in their successful campaigning, and so they can consult the Enlightenment table. And this time it's successful, and Beijing adds an Enlightenment chit, which will improve the treasury collection in the future. And now we have the Treaty of Paris and victory determination. So in this game, victory is determined by comparing the coalition's current value against its starting value. And none of the players really were greatly weakened through this 7 years World War. They've all achieved some level of improvement and thus some level of victory. However, the Manchu Empire has bettered itself by the greatest ratio. So in this game, it comes out the winner. However, Britain, Prussia, and the United Provinces coalition is the wealthiest and most powerful coalition here. So as far as the Western world goes, Great Britain, Prussia, and the United Provinces are the victors. Anyway, that is the end of this game. I hope you enjoyed watching this series. It's an interesting little game to have on the 7 Years World War, and in typical Joe Miranda fashion, has a lot of nice details. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a great day.